Hi, I'm MC Jessie。
大家好，讀你聽2.0，今日繼續讀 Miguel de Cervantes 嘅 Don Quixote 唐吉訶德，讀到第14節啦。呢節嘅名叫做 Wherein are inserted the despairing verses of the dead shepherd together with other incidents not looked for。呢一節就會承接翻上一節，由呢個 Vivaldo 讀出呢個死去咗嘅 Chrysostom 佢嘅遺書，當然係記載住佢對 Marcela 嘅愛慕啦、輕生嘅念頭啦。咁就我哋睇下呢一段文字會幾繪形繪色咁樣講述呢個下場悲慘嘅愛情故事啦。跟住我哋交俾 Costa 同大家讀嚟聽。
The Lay of Chrysostom. Since thou dost in thy cruelty desire the ruthless rigour of thy tyranny, from tongue to tongue, from land to land proclaimed, the very hell will I constrain to lend, this stricken breast of mine deep notes of woe, to serve my need of fitting utterance. And as I strive to body forth the tale of all I suffer, all that thou hast done, forth shall the dread voice roll, the bear along, shreds from my vital torn for greater pain. Then listen, not to dulcet harmony, but to a discord wrung by mad despair, out of this bosom's depths of bitterness, to ease my heart and plant a sting in thine. The lion's roar, the fierce wolf's savage howl, the horrid hissing of the scaly snake, the awesome cries of monsters yet unnamed, the crow's ill-boding croak, the hollow moan of wild winds wrestling with the restless sea, the wrathful bellow of the vanished bull, the plaintive sobbing of the widowed dove, the envied owl's sad note, the wail of woe that rises from the dreary choir of hell, commingled in one sound, confusing sense, that all these come to aid my soul's complaint. For pain like mine demands new modes of song. No echoes of that discord shall be heard, where far the Tagus rolls, or on the banks of olive-bordered Batis, to the rocks, or in deep caverns shall my plaint be told, and by a lifeless tongue in living words, or in dark valleys or on lonely shores, where neither foot of men nor sunbeam falls, or in among the poison-breathing swamps, or monsters nourished by the sluggish Nile. For though it be two solitudes remote, the hoarse vague echoes of my sorrow sound, thy matchless cruelty, my dismal fate, shall carry them to all the spacious world. Disdain hath power to kill, and patience dies, slain by suspicion, be it false or true, and deadly is the force of jealousy. Long absence makes of life a dreary void. No hope of happiness can give repose to him that ever fears to be forgot, and death inevitable waits in hall. But I, by some strange miracle, live on, a prey to absence, jealousy, disdain, wrapped by suspicion as by certainty, forgotten, left to feed my flame alone. And while I suffer thus, there comes no ray of hope to gladden me athwart the gloom, nor do I look for it in my despair, but rather clinging to a cureless woe, all hope do I abjure for evermore. Can there be hope where fear is? Were it well, when far more certain are the grounds of fear? Ought I to shut mine eyes to jealousy, if through 1,000 heart wounds it appears? Who would not give free access to distrust, seeing disdain veiled, and bitter change, all his suspicions turned to certainties, and the fair truth transformed into a lie? O thou fierce tyrant of the realms of love, O jealousy, put chains upon these hands, and bind me with thy strongest cord, disdain. But woe is me, triumphant over all, my sufferings drown the memory of you. And now I die, and since there is no hope of happiness for me in life or death, still to my fantasy I'll fondly cling. I'll say that he is wise who loveth well, and that the soul must free is that most bound in thraldom to the ancient tyrant love. I say that she who is mine enemy, in that fair body has fair a mind, and that her coldness is but my desert, and that by virtue of the pain he sends, love rules his kingdom with a gentle sway. Thus self-deluding and in bondage soul, and wearing out the wretched shred of life to which I am reduced by her disdain, I'll give this soul and body to the winds, all hopeless of a crown of bliss in store. Thou whose injustice have supplied the cause, that makes me quit the weary life I loathe, as by this wounded bosom thou canst see, how willingly thy victim I become, let not my death, if haply worth a tear, cloud the clear heaven that dwells in thy bright eyes. I would not have thee expiate in aught the crime of having made my heart thy prey, but rather let thy laughter gaily ring, and prove my death to be thy festival. Fool that I am to bid thee, well I know thy glory gains by my untimely end. And now it is time, from hell's abyss, come thirsting Tantalus, come Sisyphus, heaving the cruel stone, come Titius, with vulture and with wheel Ixion come, and come the sisters of the ceaseless toil, and all into this breast transfer their pains, and chant in their deepest tones a doleful dirge over a cause unworthy of a shroud. Let the three-headed guardian of the gate, and all the monstrous progeny of hell, the doleful concert join, a lover dead, methinks can have no fitter obsequies. Lay of despair, grieve not when thou art gone, forth from this sorrow heart, my misery, brings fortune to the cause that gave thee birth, then banish sadness even in the tomb. The lay of Chrysostom met with the approbation of listeners, though the reader said it did not seem to give him to agree with what he had heard of Marcela's reserve and propriety, for Chrysostom complained in it of jealousy, suspicion, and absence, all to the prejudice of the good name and fame of Marcela, to which Ambrosio replied as one who knew well his friend's most secret thoughts, Signor, to remove that doubt, I should tell you that when the unhappy man wrote this lay, he was away from Marcela, from whom he had voluntarily separated himself, and try if absence would act with him as it is wont. And as everything distresses and every fear haunts the banished lover, so imaginary jealousies and suspicions, dreaded as if they were true, tormented Chrysostom. And thus the truth of what report declares of the virtue of Marcela remains unshaken, and with her envy itself should not and cannot find any fault save that of being cruel, somewhat haughty, and very scornful. And that is true, said Vivaldo, and as he was about to read another paper of those he had preserved from the fire, he was stopped by a marvelous vision that unexpectedly presented itself to their eyes. For on the summit of the rock where they were digging the grave, there appeared the shepherdess Marcela, so beautiful that her beauty exceeded its reputation. Those who had never till then beheld her gaze upon her in wonder and silence, and those who were accustomed to see her were not less amazed than those who had never seen her before. But the instant Ambrosio saw her, he addressed her with manifest indignation. Art thou come, by chance, cruel basilisk of these mountains, to see if in thy presence blood will flow from the wounds of this wretched being thy cruelty has robbed of life? Or is it to exult over the cruel work of thy humours that thou art come? Or like another pitiless Nero to look down from that height upon the ruin of his Rome in embers? Or in thy arrogance to trample on this ill-fated corpse, as the ungrateful daughter trampled on her father's Tarquins? Tell us quickly for what thou art come, or what it is thou wouldst have, for, as I know the thoughts of Chrysostom never fail to obey thee in life, I will make all these who call themselves his friends obey thee, though he be dead. I come not, Ambrosio, for any of the purposes thou hast named, replied Marcela, but to defend myself and to prove how unreasonable are all those who blame me for their sorrow and for Chrysostom's death. And therefore I ask all of you that are here to give me your attention, for it will not take much time or many words to bring the truth home to persons of sense. Heaven has made me, so you say, beautiful, and so much so that in spite of yourselves my beauty leads you to love me. And for the love you show me, you say, and even urge, that I am bound to love you. By that natural understanding which God has given me, I know that everything beautiful attracts love, but I cannot see how, by reason of being loved, that which is loved for its beauty is bound to love that which loves it. Besides, it may happen that the lover of that which is beautiful may be ugly. The ugliness being detestable, it is very absurd to say, I love thee because thou art beautiful. Thou must love me though I be ugly. But supposing the beauty equal on both sides, it does not follow that the inclinations must be therefore alike. For it is not every beauty that excites love, some but pleasing the eye without winning the affection. And if every sort of beauty excited love and won the heart, the will would wander vaguely to and fro, unable to make choice of any. For as there is an infinity of beauty objects, there must be an infinity of inclinations, and true love, I have heard it said, is indivisible, and must be voluntary and not compelled. If this be so, I believe it to be, why do you desire me to bend my will by force, for no other reason by that you say you love me? Nay, tell me, had heaven made me ugly as it has made me beautiful, could I with justice complain of you for not loving me? Moreover, you must remember that the beauty I possess was not choice of mine, for, be it what it may, heaven of its bounty gave it me without my asking or choosing it. And as the viper, though it kills with it, does not deserve to be blamed for the poison it carries, as it is a gift of nature, neither do I deserve reproach for being beautiful. For beauty in a modest woman is like fire at a distance or a sharp sword. The one does not burn, the other does not cut. Those who do not come too near. Honor and virtue are the ornaments of the mind, without which the body, though it be so, has no right to pass for beautiful. But if modesty is one of the virtues that specially lend a grace and charm to mind and body, why should she who is loved for her beauty part with it to gratify one who for his pleasure alone strives with all his might and energy to rob her of it? I was born free, and that I might live in freedom I chose the solitude of the fields. In the trees of the mountains I find society. The clear waters of the brooks are my mirrors, and to the trees and waters I make known my thoughts and charms. I am a fire far off, a sword laid aside. Those whom I have inspired with love, by letting them see me, I have by words undeceived. And if their longings live on hope, and I have given none to Chrysostom or to any other, it cannot justly be said that the death of any is my doing, for it was rather his own obstinacy than my cruelty that killed him. And if it be made a charge against me that his wishes were honourable, and that therefore I was bound to yield to them, I answer that when on this very spot, where now his grave is made, he declared to me his purity of purpose, I told him that mine was to live in perpetual solitude, and that the earth alone should enjoy the fruits of my retirement and the spoils of my beauty. And if, after this open avowal, he chose to persist against hope and steer against the wind, what wonder is it that he should sink in the depths of his infatuation? If I had encouraged him, I should be false. If I had gratified him, I should have acted against my own better resolution and purpose. He was persistent in spite of warning. He despaired without being hated. Bethink you now if it be reasonable that his suffering should be laid to my charge. Let him who has been deceived complain. Let him give way to despair whose encouraged hopes have proved vain. Let him flatter himself whom I shall entice. Let him boast whom I shall receive. But let not him call me cruel or homicide to whom I make no promise, upon whom I practice no deception, whom I neither entice nor receive. It has not been so far the will of heaven that I should love by fate, and to expect me to love by choice is idle. Let this general declaration serve for each of my suitors on his own account, and let it be understood from this time forth that if anyone dies for me, it is not of jealousy or misery he dies, for she who loves no one can give no cause for jealousy to any, and candour is not to be confounded with scorn. Let him who calls me wild beast and basilisk leave me alone as something noxious and evil. Let him who calls me ungrateful withhold his service. Who calls me wayward, see not my acquaintance. Who calls me cruel, pursue me not. For this wild beast, this basilisk, this ungrateful, cruel, wayward being has no kind of desire to seek, serve, know, or follow them. If Chrysostom's impatience and violent passion killed him, why should my modest behavior and circumspection be blamed? If I preserved my purity in the society of the trees, why should he who would have me preserve it among men seek to rob me of it? I have, as you know, wealth of my own, and I covet not that of others. My taste is for freedom, and I have no relish for constraint. I neither love nor hate anyone. I do not deceive this one or court that, or trifle with one or play with another. The modest converse of the shepherd girls of these helmets and the care of my goats are my recreations. My desires are bounded by these mountains, and if they ever wander hence, it is to contemplate the beauty of the heavens, steps by which the soul travels to its primeval abode. With these words, and not waiting to hear a reply, she turned and passed into the thickest part of a wood that was hard by, leaving all who were there lost in admiration as much of her good sense as of her beauty. Some, those wounded by the irresistible shafts launched by her bright eyes, made as though they would follow her, heedless of the frank declaration they had heard, seeing which, and deeming this a fitting occasion for the exercise of his chivalry in aid of distressed damsels, Don Quixote, laying his hand on the hilt of his sword, exclaimed in a loud and distinct voice, "Let no one, whatever his rank or condition, dare to follow the beautiful Marcela, under pain of incurring my fierce indignation. She has shown by clear and satisfactory arguments that little or no fault is to be found with her for the death of Chrysostom, and also how far she is from yielding to the wishes of any of her lovers, for which reason, instead of being followed and persecuted, she should in justice be honored and esteemed by all the good people of the world, for she shows that she is the only woman in it that holds to such a virtuous resolution." Whether it was because of the threats of Don Quixote or because Ambrosio told them to fulfill their duty to their good friend, none of the shepherds moved or stirred from the spot until, having finished the grave and burned Chrysostom's papers, they laid his body in it, not without many tears from those who stood by. They closed the grave with a heavy stone until a slab was ready, which Ambrosio said he meant to have prepared, with an epitaph which was to be to this effect: "Beneath the stone before your eyes, the body of a lover lies. In life he was a shepherd swain, in death a victim to disdain. Ungrateful, cruel, coy, and fair, was she that drove him to despair? The love have made her his ally, for spreading wide his tyranny." They then strewed upon the grave a profusion of flowers and branches, and all expressing their condolence with his friend Ambrosio, took their leave. Vivaldo and his companion did the same, and Don Quixote bade farewell to his hosts and to the travellers, who pressed him to come with them to Seville, as being such a convenient place for finding adventures, for they presented themselves in every street and round every corner oftener than anywhere else. Don Quixote thanked them for their advice and for the disposition they showed to do him a favour, and said that for the present he would not and must not go to Seville until he had cleared all these mountains of highwaymen and robbers, of whom report said they were full. Seeing his good intention, the travellers were unwilling to press him further, and once more bidding him farewell, they left him and pursued their journey, in the course of which they did not fail to discuss the story of Marcela and Chrysostom, as well as the madness of Don Quixote. He, on his part, resolved to go in quest of the shepherdess Marcela, and make offer to her of all the service he could render her. But things did not fall out with him as he expected, according to what is related in the course of this veracious history, of which the second part ends here.
唔該晒 Costa， 好，呢一節就讀完啦。呢一個遺書啦、遺言啦，亦都表露咗 Chrysostom 嘅心跡啦。然之後就好完美咁樣俾 Marcela 咧親自現身説法，完美還擊咗不負責任嘅死亡宣言啦。作為美貌啦、美麗啦，並唔係佢自己所選擇啦。而佢嘅傾慕者佢點樣去選擇去做，亦都唔係佢應該去負嘅責任啊。而喺呢個時候咧，Don Quixote就挺身而出啦，damsel in distress 啊嘛，咁佢一定要英雄救美啦，咁就衝咗出嚟就講，咁多位唔好再騷擾呢個 Marcela 啦。佢亦都講得非常之清楚，佢嘅美貌同佢嘅追求者嘅自殺係同佢一啲關係都冇啊！呢個係唔係佢嘅選擇？佢只不過係選擇咗獨身啦、孤獨啦、留喺大自然啦、獨自生活啦、無依無靠啦、自由自在啦。咁大家就唔應該再騷擾佢啦。咁呢件事咧，亦都係喺呢一個非常之有條理啦、有邏輯啦，亦都再一次係超越咗時代啦。咁有營養嘅宣言之下咧，就落幕啦。眾人亦都各散東西啦。當中嘅牧羊者又邀請唐吉訶德去 Seville 啦。咁但係Don Quixote係婉拒咗，因為佢認為佢應該留喺山上面去打擊啲山賊。呢個係佢作為騎士嘅責任。 好，我哋睇下呢一節嘅一啲字都幾多啊，不過啲好古老嘅字我揀啲常用少少嘅字啦。Progeny 名詞 ，a descendant or the descendants of a person, animal or plant, offspring 後裔啦。文中有提到嘅就係啲邪惡嘅怪獸嘅後裔啊 ，monstrous progeny from hell 咁樣。obsequies obsequies 名詞嚟嘅。意思係喪禮儀式funeral rites obsequies。wayward Marcela嘅自白入面有提到呢個字嘅，佢話你批評我 wayward， 咩係 wayward 呢？形容詞 difficult to control or predict because of willful or perverse behaviour， 反覆無常 perverse 就有淫性你話我反覆無常嘅話咧，咁你唔好揾我啦，你唔好嚟接觸我啦咁樣。我想講，我喺度讀呢篇嘅時候，我一路感受到作者對於一啲咁樣嘅女性嘅自白佢係真係非常之深入咁樣去企喺呢啲女性嘅立場去發言鏗鏘有力啦，字字珠璣啦，係令人一啲反駁嘅餘力都冇。雖然文中係呢個 Marcela 講完之後要擰轉身走咗，但係實際上就算佢企喺度唔走咧，都冇人會反駁到佢。唔係淨係因為佢嘅美貌咁簡單文中亦都有提到係因為佢說話嘅有力佢說話嘅力度啦，係令人毫無反駁啦，甚至應該係慚愧啦。即係當中呢個 Ambrosio 應該要感到慚愧因為佢對呢個 Marcela 嘅指責係站不住腳。咁喺呢度我就覺得呢一個宣言係真係好超越咗佢嘅時代啦，咁獨立自主嘅女性啦，呢啲咁樣嘅形容詞到今時今日嘅劇本依然都仲係出現緊。即係女性咪女性咯，點解就要獨立自主呢？咁背後咩原因呢？但係遠遠喺呢個年代，喺呢本書嘅年代17世紀就已經出現咗呢個宣言，而係如此地咁有邏輯咁清晰，只能夠話對呢個作者又再一次嘅佩服啦。即係佢唔單止寫一啲好中二病嘅騎士精神寫得好出色，佢連寫喺女性美麗嘅女性立場都係如此地咁超越時代。好，我哋今日讀到嚟呢度，我下一次繼續同大家讀你聽，拜拜。
If you like this video, make sure to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Adios.